Here's a tip on learning from mistakes. I'm convinced that whether it's reading, writing, math, uh, parenting, whatever it might be, sometimes our biggest leaps forward in our understanding come from bumping into mistakes we've made, learning from the mistake, and then moving forward. So, uh, I'm going to tell you a story now about uh, me learning from a mistake recently that I think might help us to understand one of the ways that we can get the most out of the mistakes we make in reading, writing, and math at ESU. So um, we wash these containers at home. I wash these containers at home, and then we use them for putting food in and pop them into the freezer or the fridge or whatever. The other day, we got a whole bunch of these out of the basement, ones that had been washed, and started putting some food in them. And I noticed that out of let's say 12 containers that we got out, 6 of them were dirty still. And so clearly I had made a mistake. I hadn't washed them carefully. Now, if that's all it was, I might say, well, I just need to slow down, wash more carefully, take more time, this sort of thing. But then I noticed something. I put out the 6 containers that were dirty, and I noticed a pattern. I'm going to show this to you. You can see just inside inside the edge of this yogurt container, that's where it was dirty. Everything else inside was clean. It was really just this ledge around here that was the dirty part, and all 6 containers had the same problem. That helped me to see that just perhaps cleaning more carefully, slowing down, um, being more careful might not have solved my problem, because it seems that I don't have a habit of paying extra attention to that area. The only way I can do a better job is by remembering that that's a spot that I have trouble with, and I need to remember when I work on work on washing these things, to make sure I wash that spot. And I'll bet you now I'll get 100% of these clean instead of just 50% of these clean, because I knew exactly where the mistake was, and I knew exactly what I could do to turn that around and learn from it. So, how does this apply to reading and writing and math? The other day, I had someone do a math quiz for me, and they got a score of 8 out of 10, which is a fantastic score. When I looked at the 2 mistakes they did, though, I noticed a pattern. The 2 mistakes that they had made, the 2 questions that they got wrong, were both questions that asked them to find a fraction of an amount. A question that might say, 2/3 of the people in the city wear black socks. How many people wear black socks? It's asking you for 2/3 of the population. That's a fraction of an amount kind of question. Both of the questions that were wrong were fraction of an amount questions. So we didn't necessarily need to go back and review a whole lot of the math that they had done to try and get those 2 questions figured out. We just needed to go back to that one type of question and study those again to be able to solve that problem and move ahead with a better understanding. So when you find mistakes in math, look carefully and see if you can find any kind of pattern for the mistakes that are happening. If you can, then often one fix will solve many problems, just like paying attention to one spot, especially in these yogurt containers, is going to solve the cleaning problem. I probably will get 100% of these clean now. Reading, similar thing. If you notice that there's certain kinds of questions that you're missing in your reading exercises, they might be questions asking you to read between the lines, questions where the answer is not spelled out in words on the page, but instead you need to find the clues that are spelled out on the page and draw some conclusions based on what you have been told to figure out something that was not told. That's inference. If you notice that it's the inference questions you're missing, then we've got something to target. We need to do a bit more work on inference. Maybe watch some YouTube videos on inference, ask the teacher for some assignments on inference. That's a way to become a stronger reader, because I've identified a pattern that says this is one area that I can get stronger at, and everything will get better as I move forward with that stronger skill set. So there's a tip. Learn from your mistakes by knowing what kind of mistakes you make.